One final question, because I had this same question after our Google conversation. John says, I listened to your most recent Sharp Tech episode and the podcast version of Ben's Tuesday update. I wonder if the real problem Google faces here is that they've accepted or had to accept the UI paradigm that OpenAI pioneered, which moves them away from the safety of the 10 blue links. Isn't there a world where instead of believing they had to ship an LLM that simply served up a single answer, Google gradually integrated LLM capabilities into their search results to mitigate the user expectations regarding generative AI? I guess I'm just playing back to you the point Ben made in his daily update that it's UI, not the AI, that is the real issue here. Did you have thoughts, Ben? Because that seems intuitive to me, and it would seem to be a better compromise that's truer to Google's core business to try to blend the two technologies there.
Yeah, no,
Why
I think
can't that
John. I
work?
think John actually crystallized the point in a very smart way. This is a really great email. I think Google's overall strategy, by and large, is to incorporate Gen AI into search results and keep people there, and that makes a ton of sense, right? Like they don't want people actually using Gemini. They want people using Google Search, and Google Search will be more useful by including generative AI as it sort of makes sense. That's I think absolutely their strategy. This bit about OpenAI forcing their hand into the sort of chatbot sort of interface and sort of image generation interface, I think is spot on. I think that makes a lot of sense. If had Google already been including Gen AI stuff in search, then they could say, oh, that's cute, chatbot. We've been doing this for a while. Look at it's in search and we're expanding it there. But because they were behind, they didn't have anything, they did feel pressure to respond in the same UI paradigm. It's a great insight. And so I think there is definitely, now they're there. They're sort of stuck, right? They sort of have to figure it out. But I do think just to finish the point, the optimistic outcome for Google is actually the vast majority of people never use these interfaces at all. They just use search, and search is better and more fully featured.
Yeah, no, and that's still a possibility. It just struck me reading his email. It's like, all right, so this isn't a game that's favorable to Google. So why has Google decided to play it and play in this forum that OpenAI basically invented when Google has its own website that is still wildly popular and successful? So why not try to integrate the two? But
so there's a
strategic questions and
one of the most interesting strategic decisions, and we'll put a link in the article. This one of my all-time favorite articles I've read was by the former head of Office at Microsoft, talking about how they thought about responding to Google Docs. And the thing with Google Docs is it had this sort of like group editing sort of functionality, like multi-user from day one. It was built around that. Like that was its core functionality from the very beginning. And it was taking a lot of share. It was a big threat because of that. Like you couldn't do that in Microsoft Word. You couldn't do that in sort of Excel. They had they had some sort of like syncing, sharing things, but it wasn't real-time collaboration, which is what Google had to bring to bear. So they had this big sort of strategic dilemma. How do we respond to this? The obvious option, the clear option is we need to ship a real-time collaboration version of let's take Word right away.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is the reason why they hadn't shipped a real-time collaboration version of Word is it's really hard. It's really complicated. And not just that they were lazy in sort of XYZ, although there was an aspect of that. This was Microsoft in sort of the dark ages
Microsoft
to a bit.
rides again, yeah.
But Word has a lot of capabilities, and people make fun of that. But the reality is that's very, very sticky, right? Because 80% of people use 20% of the functionality. The issue is for every person that 20% is different. It's all the functionality ends up being used, right? But that is also sort of a sort of bit of lock-in. And basically the strategic decision they made is that, yes, Google has shipped now. They're going to take a lot of share, but they are going to hit the exact same walls we did because they're of the way it's sort of structured, and they're going to hit a wall where they can't add critical features because of the way it's sort of built up. And we have to, and what we need to do is we need to do the long slog of completely reworking Word to include the real-time collaboration, but it's still Word. It's not sort of a bastardized version of Word. It's real Word. And this is a pretty ballsy sort of decision. We're saying we're going to let Google Docs really take a huge chunk out of our market share, but we think they're going to hit a wall because it's super easy to have all these features when you don't have, or to have all this performance when you don't have features. As you add the features, the complexity is going to overwhelm the Google Docs product, and it's going to hit a wall. And we're already working on the full scale sort of rework to do this, and we need to stay on that path. It worked out. Google Docs hit a wall at like 20% of market share or something like that. And Microsoft actually did rebuild Word, so you can have full Word with sort of in full Office docs, all the Office docs with full sort of collaboration. Now, the collaboration still isn't as good as Google, right? We're using a shared Word doc, and you added something you forgot to add in. It took a few seconds for it to appear, right? Google is actually much faster. There's aspects of it that are better, but they actually shipped full Word with full collaboration. Google Docs hit a wall. It basically added no new features for like 5 or 6 years because like they ran into the complexity problems that Microsoft knew they would. And so what happened was Google Docs market share, I looked at these numbers several years ago, so they might be accurate now, but it went back down to like 14%. Like Microsoft actually started clawing back sort of share. And it was a real, like I said, the thinking behind this decision was really compelling to me. And also the sort of courage behind it, where we're going to get vilified for being the slow-moving incumbent that can't ship, but we actually think we understand the problem so deeply that we know where Google's going to hit a wall, and we know that we can position ourselves to actually be better placed in the long run and sort of be in a good spot in here. This is not what Google did with generative AI. The equivalent here would have been, chatbots are cool. At the end of the day, people want real-time information. They want new information. We need to build this up through search. And oh, by the way, we need to preserve search. And we're going to expose generative AI features into search. Let OpenAI, get all the nerds excited and have a chatbot interface. But we actually don't think the chatbot interface is right. We think normal people are not going to use it that much.
And I think they would be right in that assumption.
Maybe they would be, but they didn't have the strategic thinking and or the courage to pursue that route. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe chatbots are the future and Google was good to catch up. But from what we know of Google, this like the other explanation is very viable as well. They got their sort of pants, tail set on fire, and they're like, we got to ship a chat interface, and now they're stuck because they're stuck like Microsoft would have been stuck with bastardized Word that is going to hit the same wall that Google did. And now you're supporting two products that you have a huge sort of marketplace channel sort of signaling issue. But they didn't. They went the opposite direction. And I don't, again, this is all off the top of the head in sort of response to John's email here, but it is a very striking thing to consider. And it's very plausible that they actually, we just witnessed Google make a big mistake over the last year because they didn't have the courage to take the short-term L, knowing that they can deliver sort of the long-term win.
Yeah, no, and I actually don't want to minimize the potential for chatbots either, because I've found myself using the ChatGPT 4 more frequently lately.
Which, by the way, given all we've learned about you, is pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I just imagine that's going to be a much more crowded space. And if I'm Google, I say, look, there are going to be a lot of chatbots over the years to come.
They're fighting on OpenAI's turf. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It just strikes me as short-sighted, but lack of courage, lack of conviction, lack of foresight, those have been popular themes in the Google
to be clear, we would probably be sitting on this podcast accusing Google of being slow and not shipping had they not shipped their own chatbot, right? Which is,
maybe.
And to be clear, lots of people are sitting there telling Microsoft about how slow and fat and they can't ship anymore because they didn't have a response to Google's real-time collaboration. So, and so I gotta admit, I would probably be criticizing Google for this in the other position, just like intellectually, I'm going to be totally honest. I like to think I would have thought this all the way through and made the analogy I just did. I'm not sure if I would have. I had some pre-existing assumptions about Google's ability to ship and whatnot.
I might have.
That probably would have won the day.
Bull throughout most of this stuff, but
no,
in any event,
and I think full credit to you. You've been pretty consistent on this, not sure chatbots are actually the right interface. People like using Google. That's kind of the argument, right? And yeah, so it's a very interesting sort of counterfactual to consider.